Hello and welcome. I'm Sarah Coates and you're watching W News, broadcasting live from the Al Arabiya News headquarters. These are our top stories. Biden and Trump meet at the Oval Office as the outgoing president prepares to hand over the keys to the White House. A tech tycoon and a former Fox News presenter meet the latest members of Trump's incoming regime. Hezbollah claims it's launched a drone attack on the Israeli military headquarters in Tel Aviv. And Ukraine reacts to a Russian missile attack after blasts ring out in the city of Kyiv earlier today. US President-elect Donald Trump is wasting no time in preparing for office, making several high-level cabinet appointments in recent days. Overnight, he made a series of decisions likely to raise eyebrows, including the appointment of a Fox News host to his cabinet, and he even found a job for the world's richest man. Correspondent Mitch McCann reports.
The US military is one of the largest and most advanced on the planet. It boasts more than 1.3 million active duty troops. And a new administration means it's set to welcome a new defence secretary as wars rage in Europe, the Middle East and in Africa. And Donald Trump's choice might be a familiar face for viewers of weekend television.
Can you keep a country if you're teaching young people to hate that very same country? We are about to find out.
Donald Trump has tapped Fox News host Pete Hegseth for one of the most important roles in the government. The pick will shock many despite his previous military experience. He's an Army National Guard veteran and served in Afghanistan, Iraq and Guantanamo Bay. It's also reported the Trump transition team is considering implementing a new panel to review Army leadership and purge what Mr. Trump has called woke generals. And the appointments of candidates without political experience don't end there.
America is going to reach heights that it has never seen before. The future is going to be amazing!
Donald Trump has asked the world's richest man to lead a Department of Government Efficiency. Elon Musk, who supported the Trump campaign with millions of dollars, will be joined by Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy. Mr. Trump says the pair will be tasked with dismantling government bureaucracy, slashing excess regulations, cutting wasteful expenditures and restructuring federal agencies. Donald Trump's appointments include a range of loyalists and those who financially supported his campaign for the White House, including people who have never been politicians. Some are well known in the political world, though, like South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem.
The only person in the race that I trust to do what needs to be done on these issues is President Trump.
Noem is a hardliner when it comes to immigration, labelling the southern border a war zone. She's set for a cabinet position, leading the Department of Homeland Security, putting her at the forefront of plans to deport millions of illegal immigrants. She was tipped to be a candidate for vice president until she revealed in a book that she executed a family dog because it was, quote, untrainable. Noem will work alongside the new border czar, Tom Homan, and Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller. The incoming cabinet is shaping up to be dramatically different from the group that's been running this country for the last 4 years. Mitch McCann, Al Arabiya News, New York.
I'm now joined from Washington by our chief correspondent, Simon Marks. Simon, Donald Trump has met President Biden at the White House as part of the standard transition process. What do we know so far?
Well, we know that they are meeting. We think that meeting is still underway. We have no idea, Sarah, how long it is going to last. Remember that while President Biden is honouring the traditional transition process, Donald Trump did not do the same 4 years ago. He didn't open the doors of the Oval Office to President-elect Joe Biden because at the time he was maintaining falsely that the presidential election that year had been rigged and stolen. Joe Biden very much welcoming Donald Trump back to the Oval Office today. The former president, now president-elect, setting foot inside the building for the first time since he left the presidency on the eve of Joe Biden's inauguration. Remember that Donald Trump didn't even stick around for President-elect Biden's swearing in back in January of 2021. There was a large fire raging in the fireplace behind the two men as they both assured one another that they want to engage in a smooth transfer of power, which will take place on January the 20th next year at high noon when Donald Trump takes the presidential oath of office. But as to what they're discussing after the cameras were shown the exit from the Oval Office, we do not know. It is perfectly possible that Joe Biden, given his passionate concern about the future of American democracy, may be making entreaties to Donald Trump not to roll that back. It is also possible that he will be making the case for the United States to continue providing support to Ukraine, although earlier in the day, Donald Trump was up on Capitol Hill meeting Republicans in the House of Representatives, and one television network here, Scripps News, is reporting that one of Donald Trump's allies, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, says that she has secured a promise from the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Republican Mike Johnson, that he is not going to support or move legislation that would continue providing funding for the government of President Volodymyr Zelensky or weapons transfers. So if President Biden is going to make that case to the president-elect, it may be falling on deaf ears. Melania Trump, the former First Lady and future First Lady of the United States, issued an invitation from First Lady Jill Biden to join her husband at the White House today. Clearly, the Trumps don't need the grand tour of the building. They lived there for 4 years, but it was notable that Melania Trump opted to stay away from Washington today. We still do not know precisely what role she's going to be playing as First Lady when she and her husband are presumed to be moving back into the building on January the 20th of next year.
And Simon, more appointments coming through today. What's the reaction to these?
Well, I mean, the appointment that has raised eyebrows across this city and throughout the armed forces is the nomination of the Fox News anchor Pete Hesketh to be the next Secretary of Defense. As Mitch was reporting, he has military experience. He's a combat veteran, but he was only a junior officer, and he has absolutely no experience in the world of national security policy. He also has some skeletons in his closet, including an extremely acrimonious divorce. And there are many here in Washington who wonder whether he can truly get through a Senate confirmation hearing, which he will be required to go through, because if he's going to be a member of the cabinet, he's got to be confirmed by the US Senate. I mean, throughout the military, there has been enormous surprise at this announcement by the president-elect that he wants to bring one of those Fox News anchors that he likes watching into his government at such a senior level. We're still waiting for news about the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, the senator from Florida, hotly tipped to be the next Secretary of State, avoided reporters' questions about what was going on up on Capitol Hill earlier today. So it's not clear when that announcement may be coming, but it's definitely the Defense Secretary announcement here that has been occupying an enormous amount of this city's attention.
All right, we'll be watching out for that. Simon Marks for us in DC. Simon, thank you. Ghana and the US are far apart in terms of socio-economic development, but the West African nation is set to hold elections in December and finds itself in a similar situation like that of America, where a former president is hoping to stage a comeback like Donald Trump. Well, opinions are divided on whether the outcome of the US elections can be replicated in Ghana. Our correspondent Nabil Ahmed Rufai reports from Accra.
Just as in the case of America, where Vice President Kamala Harris faced off with former President Donald Trump, the frontrunners in Ghana's presidential elections are the Vice President Mahamudu Bawumia and the former president, John Mahama. Donald Trump's victory has left many in Ghana wondering whether the same will be mirrored when the country heads to the polls in December.
I think former President John Mahama will win, just like Donald Trump win in U.S.
12 candidates are contesting in Ghana's elections this year. Incumbent President Nana Akufo-Addo is not contesting because he has reached the constitutional limit of 8 years in government. No political party has retained power beyond 2 consecutive 4-year terms in Ghana. But the ruling party, the New Patriotic Party, is hoping to make history by retaining power after 8 years in government. The New Patriotic Party aligns with the center-right ideologies, similar to the Republican Party in the US, while the largest opposition party, the National Democratic Congress, leans more towards the center-left ideologies like the US Democratic Party. Analysts say the political situation in America is different from that of Ghana and caution against drawing too many parallels.
We are not dealing with immigration in the way that the US is dealing with immigration. We are not dealing with the southern border in the way that the US is dealing with the southern border. Race issues do not translate the same way as here. And even the other situations are quite different. And when we have our own cultural context, right? The way corruption is an issue here is not the same as in the US.
Both the front-runners of this year's elections are promising to improve the economy by tackling inflation to help reduce the cost of living. Nearly 19 million people who are expected to vote will decide on who takes up the job as Ghana's next president on December 7th. Nabil Ahmed Rufai, Al Arabiya News, Accra.
Now to a developing story, and Hezbollah says it has successfully hit the Israeli military headquarters in Tel Aviv with a squadron of drones, with reports that no air raid sirens were activated. Let's go straight now to our correspondent live in Tel Aviv, Giles Gibson. Giles, what more can you tell us?
Yeah, Sarah, I can confirm that we did not hear any air raid sirens here in the heart of Tel Aviv. There were sirens going off just to the north of Tel Aviv and in northern Israel as well. The IDF earlier saying that 5 rockets were launched by Hezbollah in Lebanon towards central and northern parts of Israel, saying that some had been intercepted but that some had made impact. At this stage, no reports yet of any casualties or any injuries from those rocket launches. And
Giles, let's now move to Gaza. We did hear earlier today from the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken. He was speaking, he said basically that Israel has nearly met its obligations when it comes to providing more aid into the Gaza Strip, but aid groups say that that is simply not the case. What is the situation?
Yeah, Antony Blinken essentially saying that he has seen the Israeli government taking steps to boost the amount of humanitarian aid flowing into Gaza, but also saying that he wants to see a couple of things specifically going forward. He wants to see commercial truck routes reopened, and he also wants to see what he called extended pauses in fighting so that aid can be distributed throughout the enclave. As you indicate there, though, international aid agencies on the ground are saying that not only are not enough aid trucks actually getting into Gaza itself, that even the aid that is getting through the different border crossings that face, huge amounts of delays on a daily basis, even that aid that's actually getting through, it's then incredibly challenging to actually distribute it to people on the ground.
And Giles, President-elect Trump has named his ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, who did say today that it is, of course, possible that the US would back the Israeli government if it were to try and annex illegal settlements in the West Bank. How are people there reacting?
Well, in terms of the government reaction, they are very much in favour of this nomination by President-elect Trump. Gideon Saar, the foreign minister, saying that Mike Huckabee is a long-standing friend of Israel, and also the far-right finance minister Bezalel Smotrich saying that together they can work towards strengthening Israel's security. But you have to say at the same time that Mike Huckabee has a very long history of making what many see as incendiary, controversial comments about Palestinians and about the West Bank. He has in the past questioned really the entire concept of the Palestinian people and also refused to use the term settlements when referring to settlements in the West Bank.
So in terms of that, would it be fair to say that this far-right coalition in Israel is really becoming emboldened now with Donald Trump coming into power?
Yeah, I think with every single appointment in terms of the cabinet or foreign policy positions that President-elect Trump is making, we are seeing this very positive reaction from government officials here in Israel. But of course, in the shorter term, they do still have to deal with the incumbent Biden administration for just over 2 months. And so they are still getting messages like what we were talking about with Antony Blinken, talking about the need to boost the amounts of humanitarian aid into Gaza. So there is still that short-term position, even though in the longer term they have these very strong supporters of Israel, including Mike Huckabee, potentially US Senator Marco Rubio, these sorts of people being put into some of the key foreign policy and national security positions within the incoming Trump administration.
All right, that's Giles Gibson live in Tel Aviv. Giles, thank you. Let's have a look at some of the other stories making headlines today. In Pakistan's Punjab province, a wedding has ended in tragedy, with at least 14 guests killed and many more missing after the bus they were travelling in plunged off a bridge and into a river. Rescue efforts are ongoing, with the cause of the crash still unconfirmed by police, but local reports suggest the driver lost control of the vehicle while speeding. Sexual abuse survivors are demanding more resignations following a review into childhood abuse associated with the Church of England. The Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, stood down yesterday after it was discovered he could and should have reported the abuse of boys and men to police in 2013. Thousands have been evacuated from their homes in the Costa del Sol area of southern Spain after a red weather warning alert over rainfall. A message was sent out to residents in the Malaga region late last night. This weather warning is not expected to be as serious as last month, when the Valencia province suffered significant damage and loss of lives following severe flooding. And finally, comedy actor and star of The Office, John Krasinski, has reacted to the news of being crowned People magazine's 2024 Sexiest Man Alive.
Hey everybody, this is John Krasinski, and no, this is not a dream. I have been named People's Sexiest Man Alive. What is happening?
Just immediate blackout. So the brain just turned off, actually. Zero thoughts, other than maybe I'm being punked. And then after that, it was just, it was a full surreality. That's not how I wake up usually thinking, is this the day that I'll be asked to be sexiest man alive? And yet, it was the day. You guys did it. You guys really raised the bar for me.
Moving to Ukraine now, where Kyiv is accusing Russia of launching its first missile attack on the capital in months, with large blasts heard across the city and people told to shelter as air defence systems worked to intercept projectiles. The latest attack follows almost daily drone strikes across many parts of the country, with Ukrainians facing uncertain times after the election of Donald Trump, with the coming months being seen as critical for Kyiv to strengthen its position. For more on this, I'm joined from Kyiv by our correspondent Megumi Lim. Megumi, thanks for coming on. Firstly, bring us up to speed with the latest on the ground.
That's right. This was the first missile attack against Kyiv in 73 days. And as you mentioned earlier, prior to this attack, we've been seeing a lot of drone attacks being carried out by Russia against the capital. And people here have been expecting, waiting for the next big missile attack to happen. Just because Russia has been scaling back on its missile attacks doesn't mean people can, sort of breathe out a sigh of relief. There has been a sense of foreboding that Russia has been stockpiling its missiles for the winter. Now, thankfully, this overnight attack was not as devastating as the one that took place 73 days ago. There were no reports of major damages or casualties, but we did hear very loud explosions here in the early hours as air defense worked to intercept these incoming projectiles. And this attack, however, did take place just a day after the Pentagon just confirmed that North Korean troops have indeed joined the fight in Russia's Kursk region against Ukrainian troops. According to Ukrainian and U.S. officials, Russia has amassed a force of 50,000 soldiers in Russia's Kursk region to try to push out Ukrainian forces that are occupying some territory there, some 600 square kilometers of territory. Now, Ukrainian forces have been occupying this territory since their surprise incursion in August. They were hoping that this chunk of land could be used as a leverage if and when talks did take place with Russia. But right now, as we're seeing this major counteroffensive take place, carried out by Russia, we do not know if or how much longer Ukrainian troops will be able to hold on to this territory.
And Megumi, with these next few months really being seen as critical, tell me, how are Ukrainians preparing?
Well, Ukrainians are gearing up for probably one of the most, or if not the most difficult winter of Russia's full-scale war. Right now, already half of Ukraine's energy generating capacity has been crippled due to Russian attacks that took place this summer, and we're expecting more attacks to take place. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky already warned last month that this winter is going to be, quote, particularly dangerous. These are the words that he used. He said Ukraine is prepared. He didn't offer any details as to how Ukraine is prepared, but he is and has continued to urge Ukraine's partners to supply more air defense systems, which of course is crucial to protect the skies over Ukraine to prevent further destruction to Ukraine's energy infrastructure. Energy officials are saying that if these attacks do take place, blackouts will probably last for as long as 20 hours a day. This is the worst case scenario that they have described. We will likely be seeing more people leave Ukraine. Even in a better scenario, they're saying blackouts will last for as long as 8 hours a day. This is a better scenario that they've described. And these possible scenarios will remain even with help from the EU. The EU has already pledged an additional 160 million euros for repairs to the energy grid, for humanitarian aid, things like shelter, heaters. They've also said they will export about 2 gigawatts of electricity to Ukraine. This will make up about 12% of Ukraine's winter needs. And of course, Ukrainians are preparing as well. They will be relying on power banks, on candles, on flashlights, on battery-powered lamps, anything that they can get their hands on. And businesses will be relying, again, on diesel-powered generators to stay open, albeit at a much lower capacity and output. But there's only so much people here can do, and we are expecting, again, a very difficult winter ahead, and we are likely going to be seeing a lot of suffering this winter.
Megumi Lim, live in Kyiv. Thank you, Megumi. To South Asia now, where India and Pakistan are seeing pollution levels reach record highs. India's capital city, New Delhi, was the world's most polluted on Wednesday, with levels more than 70 times global permissible limits. Well, across the border in Pakistan, some cities have imposed a ban on outdoor activities. Our South Asia correspondent Neha Poonia has more.
This is what living in the world's most polluted city looks like. An acrid grey smoke choking New Delhi's skyline. Visibility down to zero. Flights in and out of New Delhi, one of the country's busiest airport hubs, hit. The city's 30 million residents are being advised to stay indoors and wear masks if they do have to venture out.
It's hard to breathe and there's a constant burning sensation in our eyes as well.
My grandchildren are really struggling. They're complaining of breathlessness. I'm also struggling to breathe and my eyes, throat and nose are burning.
Doctors warn breathing in such high levels of pollution is like smoking 45 cigarettes a day. It's why clinics like this one on the outskirts of New Delhi are seeing a big uptick in the number of patients complaining of breathing issues. Experts warn millions face the risk of developing long-term health problems across India.
At the extreme condition, you have increased chances of stroke, increased chances of heart attack, increased ICU admission, coupled with death.
For weeks now, pollution levels in Delhi and surrounding regions have been high. A dropping temperature this week significantly worsened air quality levels, with the cold air trapping pollutants very close to the city's skyline. Experts are also blaming rapid unchecked urbanization and the lax implementation of environmental regulations. A big source of this pollution, farm fires across South Asia. Millions of farmers in this region set their fields on fire in October and November, a quick and cheap way to clear crop residue ahead of the next round of sowing. India this month doubled the fine for crop burning, but experts say enforcement is still a challenge. This year the pollution levels are so high, this smog across North India and neighbouring Pakistan is even visible from space. The scale of the problem has even seen Pakistan reach out to India, a rare request for collaboration to tackle the smog between the bitter rivals. In Pakistan's most polluted province of Punjab, outdoor activities have been banned, with malls and shops ordered to shut early. And in Lahore, Pakistan's second largest city, schools are shut this week. South Asia is home to nearly all of the world's top 10 polluted cities, with this air pollution causing 2 million premature deaths across the region annually. Residents on both sides of the border say it's time governments clean up their act. Until then, their future will continue to look hazy. Neha Poonia, Al Arabiya News, New Delhi.
Let's have a look at some of the latest business news. Japan's 7-Eleven owner has received a potential $58 billion buyout bid from the retail giant's founding family, Ito. The convenience shop chain had previously received a rival proposal from Canada's Limon Tashion Kusheta. Europe's biggest meal delivery company, Just Eat Takeaway, will sell its US arm Grubhub to Wonder for $650 million. The company originally acquired Grubhub in 2020 for $7.3 billion after a boom in delivery services during the coronavirus pandemic. Shares in Samsung Electronics fell to their lowest level in more than 4 years today, with analysts linking the loss to Donald Trump's proposed US tariffs. Once the world's top memory chip maker, the South Korean company has fallen behind rivals this year. To sports news now, and Spanish tennis star Carlos Alcaraz is currently playing Andrei Rublev at the ATP finals as he struggles with sickness. The world number 3 and 4-time Grand Slam champion lost to Norway's Casper Ruud in his opening match earlier this week and cancelled a training session on Tuesday. England cricketer Reece Topley has had 15% of his match fee docked after smashing a chair following an injury during the first 2020 international against the West Indies. The pacer injured his knee during play and left the field picking up a chair on the pavilion steps. Let's get a reminder of our top stories. Biden and Trump meet at the Oval Office as the outgoing president prepares to hand over the keys to the White House. A tech tycoon and a former Fox News presenter meet the latest members of Trump's incoming regime. Hezbollah claims it's launched a drone attack on the Israeli military headquarters in Tel Aviv. And Ukraine reacts to a Russian missile attack after blasts ring out in the city of Kyiv earlier today. And that's all from us at W News. Thanks for joining us. Coming up next is Riz Khan's special US elections coverage from Washington, D.C. You can also join Tom Burgess-Watson on GNT. After that, good night.